Waffle, waffle, waffle.
Hello, welcome to Die Rollin. I'm the ever excitable Adam, and you're joining me here for another Wednesday waffle. Although it's Tuesday evening as I'm filming this, so it's not quite Wednesday, but when you're watching this, it should be Wednesday if I manage to edit this in time. So, welcome back, guys. This week we're going to be talking about Shadows of Brimstone and my kind of starter's guide, as it were. I am planning on doing a kind of longer video, or actually going a bit more depth into all the other worlds, into all the different packs and stuff you can get, and kind of give you a bit of meaty advice on where to go with Shadows of Brimstone if you are indeed interested in it. But today, my kind of waffle is going to be about where I would recommend a person who wants to start Shadows of Brimstone, where they should start, and what they should do after they've got one of the core sets. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of our waffle, we're going to be talking about, I say we, me, I'm going to be waffling on about painting. So, the first thing I'd like to say is, I'm finished. I'm done. I've managed to finish painting all of the, all of the miniatures for Dungeon Saga Origins Glimmer of Greed. And when I say almost, mainly because the actual terrain that comes with it comes with 3 big doors and a couple of different treasure piles, a pile of armor, which I all believe are specifically for Glimmer of Greed, and I did not paint all of them. I just painted the bare minimum. So I looked through the kind of like the kind of Dungeon Master Guide and had a look to see how many big doors you need, and you only need 1. So I was like, well, I might as well just paint that up. The goblins took me a long time to paint because I was just procrastinating. I don't really enjoy painting the same thing over and over again, which is why I quite enjoy painting Shadows of Brimstone miniatures, because you normally only have like about six or so miniatures to paint of that particular type, and then you can move on to the next type. It's nice and varied and stuff. Whereas when you get like a really big game with like a ton of zombies, or well, zombies aren't too bad. But yeah, unless it's broken up, it can get a bit samey, and then I really struggle. I don't know if you guys find that. Do you find that when you're painting, if you're doing an army, it's just really tricky? Luckily, I had a lot of contrast paints that helped me speed through the Glimmer of Greed goblins, and the actual sculpts themselves are really nice. They've got some lovely little kind of miniatures in there. So it's all done. It's all ready, and I actually played my very first game of Dungeon Saga Origins Glimmer of Greed this month, thanks to it all being painted. So you can keep an eye on for the channel for that. I believe we've got one more episode left, which will be on Tuesday next week, and then you can expect a review from me for Trial of Tyranny, my thoughts from a solo perspective for the first campaign, and just my general thoughts on Dungeon Saga Origins. I've done like a halfway through, and this will be our kind of, our solo review. And once I've managed to film the rest of it with the guys, you can expect another review to say what everyone else thought and how I thought it was running it as well. So painting wise, that's it. I've just been painting those guys up. My next project is I'm going to be carrying on with the Shitari Nomads for Shadows of Brimstone. I did actually paint some of them, but I just need to kind of finish them off. I used a really nice Glyph Hound Orange, I think it's called, which is a contrast paint, because most of the Blood Red Angel contrast paint, I was using all of that for the Shintaro core, which is the Trideran kind of forces. I did a ton of those in that colour, and the Shitari Nomads, they turn up and they have the same kind of colour scheme really as the Shintaro cores, so I basically just made them orange instead, and it looks great. So you can expect to see them in the not the next Shadows video for the Trideran Strike team, but the one after that I should be bringing them in there if I painted them in time. So that's all my painting. Well done. We're going to go to playing after this, because Kickstarter is going to take me less time to kind of go through. So on Kickstarter, there's 2 games which I'm like, the first game that I'm about is The Presence. This is a game that we played on the channel. It was great fun. It's a cooperative game to some extent, where you are basically visitors at a mansion and you are trying to release a spirit. And the spirit is played by one of the other players at the table, who could be good or could be bad. It's a really interesting game, very thematic, and if you want to see the gameplay, check out the channel, but we absolutely loved it. That's currently on Kickstarter, so definitely check that out. And the other thing that I'm about is Dying Light. Is it Dying Light? I think it's called Dying Light. I didn't write it down. Now I wish I had. I think it's Dying Light. Essentially, it is a zombie free-running game. It was a game that was on the Xbox. I really enjoyed it. And essentially, it was a lot of parkour, and you're going up against a ton of zombies, which is, who doesn't like going up against zombies? I mean, I know there are a lot of zombie games out there, and this kind of, when I heard that the game was coming out, I wasn't that excited, because it's another zombie game. I've pretty much got rid of all the zombie games I own, because I never get them to the table. So you've really got to do something different to draw me in for a zombie game. And that's where Dying Light looks like it might tick that box, because it's got a lot of 3D terrain in there. You're going to be parkouring all over the place. And what's even more exciting is the fact that the core pledge, which comes with the base game and like a little kind of stretch goals expansion, is £52, whereas it comes with standees rather than miniatures. And then if you want to get the miniatures version, it's around £95. Now for me, I got to a point where, honestly, I don't need to have all the miniatures. I'm playing Oathsworn. I absolutely love the fact that I've just got standees for the bosses. I can just get them out, and that's that. They're never going to look as good as miniatures, especially if you fully paint up the miniatures. But yeah, if the gameplay's there, then why not? Stars of Akarios even. We've also got a review copy of that coming, and we went for the standee version rather than the miniature version, just because you don't need all the miniatures. So yeah, the fact that Dying Light comes with two options, one which is cheaper and gets it to many more people's table, I really like that in a game. So the fact that the price for what it is, I think is pretty good. I highly recommend checking out Dying Light. I'm avoiding going into there any more investigation on that for fear of backing, so avoiding that for the moment. But for anyone who is looking for some Kickstarter at the moment, some Kickstarter games, then definitely check it out. There was also Simon have got a new game coming out. I want to say The Endless Death or something, but that looks like a new dungeon crawler they're doing. And rather than you funding it on GameFound or Kickstarter, it's a pre-order system. They're using it as pre-orders rather than saying, oh, we don't already have this game with a ton of miniatures, which is what they normally did. So I think this is interesting. I'd much rather a pre-order system than kickstarting a big Simon project. I think they've done that with the new Game of Thrones miniatures they're doing as well. So pretty interesting times for Simon, I think. So anyway, that's the couple of things I'd say definitely worth a look at on Kickstarter. Or if you're trying to avoid spending any more money on Kickstarter, then avoid. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about what I've been playing, and this brings me into something I'm going to be doing at the end of every month, where I actually tell you what the game of the month for yours truly was. Now, this month I haven't played a ton of things, if I'm honest. I played the same kind of games over and over, and I got to a point, normally I'm playing a game every other day, if I'm honest, to keep the content going on the channel, and just I enjoy playing it. Maybe every 3 days I've got a game in. However, I went through a phase of probably about a fortnight not really playing anything, which when you're trying to create content for a channel is a tricky thing to do. But I kind of got to a point of just getting into burnout, and it's something that's very real, that you can basically just put too much of yourself into something and just shrivel up and die. And I don't want to shrivel up and die, and I want to still be able to produce really nice content for you guys. So it does mean I'll be kind of, through March, you'll be seeing less videos coming out frequently. Tredarin's Strike Team, for instance, rather than every Monday coming out, it's going to be every other week, hopefully. But we're still going to be giving you loads of really fun gameplay videos, and we'll be ramping up on the review videos as well, including a review for Heavy Rain, the new Heat expansion. which will probably be out this week because I think the gameplay video will be out this week as well. So maybe I'll finish the week off with a lovely review for you. But anyway, let's talk about the games I have been playing rather than the games I haven't. So the first game that I want to talk about is the Star Wars Deck Builder. And I've got a little notepad down here where I've listed everything from my board game tracking app to say what I've done in February. And Star Wars Deck Builder, I played this a couple of times before and it was okay. It was all right, but sat down with my brother and played this at the weekend and had a fantastic time. It's just a really fun, easy to pick up, combat game. It's great. You've got a series of cards in the middle, which you are purchasing from. Deck building, that's the card that was the term I was looking for. You're purchasing these cards from the middle, and what's really fun, in deck building games, you don't normally get to mess around with other people, but in this one, you can basically, you can buy stuff that belongs to your faction, so either Empire or Rebels, and you can buy neutral cards, and if you don't want somebody to get one of their cards, you can actually sabotage them, and you get bonuses for doing that. So you can basically assassinate characters before they're even in somebody's hands, which really is an interesting dynamic. We also have the Force as well. Depending on where the Force is, there's a very flimsy kind of cardboard card at the side with a little plastic cubey moving forward and back. And depending on which side of the Force it is, your cards might have special abilities, or you might get more kind of resources to spend at the start of the round. So yeah, it's a really interesting kind of push and pull kind of mechanic there, assassinating the stuff in the middle, and it's just really fun. And very thematic. So yeah, Star Wars Deck Builder game, I had a great time playing that with my brother, and I don't feel this is a game that's going to get much support. I think it's just a one and done kind of job, and that's fine. But you know what? Part of me is like, I'd love to see some more cards come out that I'd love them to do. Maybe they could focus on the Clone Wars or something like that. Although Clone Wars isn't really my bag. But yeah, just some more kind of cards. That'd be great. Or some new factions. I don't know. So Star Wars Deck Builder. Now we'll go into another deck builder. Well, not really a deck builder. It's a card game. You can construct a deck beforehand. It's called 7th Sea City of 5 Sails. Now, we did an unboxing video for this. I sat down with my brother. It's a complicated, well, not too complicated. It's a game where you're essentially trying to claim renown, like victory points. And you do this by claiming locations. Problem is, everyone wants to claim a location, so you're fighting each other. It was a really interesting game set in like a swashbuckling kind of universe, the 7th Sea kind of realm. I've never played any 7th Sea role-playing game stuff, but it was really interesting. It was quite interesting as well playing this after playing the Star Wars The Deck Builder, because obviously with Star Wars, my brother and I know all the characters, we know all the planets, we know some really interesting things about it, we invested in it. With 7th Sea, it's something that I've heard of, my brother's heard of, maybe I think he might have dabbled in it, but it wasn't anything we were like really that, not invested in, but really knew too much about. So we had a very different feel with this game. We struggled to begin with some of the rules, but after spending a bit of time playing it, looking up some FAQs and also messaging on some Facebook groups, we actually got some answers back which made a lot more sense. And then we played another game of it where it was a lot more fluid, but very take that. The game comes with like 5 different factions you can play, and you can have up to 4 players playing the game, which we're definitely going to play. When we play this next, we're definitely going to do a 3-player because it was really interesting. The best thing about it is the combat. So you have different locations you're trying to claim, and obviously if you've got other people on the other side, they might try and take it off you before you can claim it, so you might want to try to kill them. And you're using the cards from your hand to basically, as kind of combat cards. When you attack someone, you put these threat tokens into their kind of display, and they can decide whether they're going to try and fight or they're going to just take the damage. If they take the damage and it equals their hit points, they're dead. They're sent to the locker. Whereas if they decide to fight back, they'll be using combat cards to do various different things. One of them being a riposte, where basically those threat tokens in your area, you basically put that many back in the other person's threat area. You can block some of those tokens with blocks, and you can also thrust and add new tokens into that other person's kind of display. So it's really interesting because basically you're just trying to get rid of as many threat as possible before it's the next person's turn. And the combat keeps going on like this until any threat you don't kind of remove, you take as damage. So it keeps going until nobody has any threat in their area. So you can have a battle where you're trading blows and stuff, and you're taken out, but on your turn you've managed to put like 5 or 6 threat into the other person's area, and using their cards, they you're out of the battle, but they still have to get rid of that threat, and if they can't get rid of the threat, it's damage. So it's a really interesting kind of push and pull mechanic, really interesting cards, lovely artwork, interesting setting, and we're actually really looking forward to getting this back to the table and figuring out how we're going to film this for you guys, because we wanted to do a top-down kind of view of like the combat and stuff like that, and of a gameplay session, but I was worried we wouldn't be able to get too much detail in the actual the cards themselves. So we're going to have to think about how we film that, because we really want to give the game a lot of exposure and really show you how the game works and things like that, but without having a really high camera angle or something like that. So we're going to have a think about how we do card games in general on the channel, because we'd love to bring you some Arkham Horror stuff, but the Arkham Horror stuff, same kind of thing. If it's too far out, it's very hard to show you the information, and it's also want to know what you guys want to see on the channel with regards to card games. Next, we played SSO First Captain. So SSO is Spaceship Omega. It is a cooperative survival game where you are kind of like to rescue people to a spaceship. There's some terrible disaster has come on. You've got a thick challenge deck that you basically have to get all the way through before you win. And you're going to be sacrificing each other. You're going to be producing oxygen, using the oxygen, going for spacewalks, and generally having nasty things happen. Now, I've got several expansions for this game, but I've only ever played with the base game, and you can actually see that on the channel. We played, Will and myself played with the creator on Tabletop Simulator, and it was really interesting. The most interesting thing is that Will and the creator have the same kind of voice, so it's very confusing for me. Sometimes I'm like, who's talking? So watch a video, let me know if you think they both have the same similar accent. So anyway, Christopher and I just sat down and we played a game of SSO, but rather than just showing off the base game, I was like, I've got all these expansions. The new one came through recently, and I was like, well, before we get to that, let's try some of these other expansions I'm not giving a go. So we tried out the First Captain expansion, which essentially is you are on the spaceship and the captain is is still alive, and he's basically picking you off one by one. And when I mean he's picking you off, I mean he definitely is, because some of the challenge cards that come out just outright kill people straight off. Whereas the other one I played, the main kind of the base game, as it were, what happens there is people die, but they die through their own fault. So they'll be outside when one of the arrays is destroyed. So like a meteor hits the array and someone is out there and they're dead, or somebody runs out of oxygen, or they're in a location when it's flipped. There's a few things like that. Whereas this one, they're like, oh no, depending on who's where, one of the cards was anyone who is on their own in a location dies, which could potentially end the game if you've run out of people. So the First Captain was really interesting because it felt very different. It felt very thematic to the original game we were playing, and is a very strong contender for Game of the Month. We will be bringing some actual video kind of gameplay of this in the not too distant future, because SSO is a really great system. It's fairly cheap to pick up as well, and it has so many fun little expansions that we want to show off to you guys. So if you want to see some more SSO, or just want to see some SSO, or want to know more about it, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, we'll definitely be bringing some more of that to the channel. Now that Christopher knows it, I've re-familiarised myself with that. And yeah, Will's played it before, so maybe we'll do the three of us doing that. Next, we're going to talk about the Heat. Let's bring the Heat. Heat is not a board game based on the Michael Mann film, where you've got the kind of bank robbery and stuff, which is one of the best action sequences ever, really. No, Heat is Heat Pedal to the Metal, which is about race cars in the early 60s. So we've played Heat wrong every time I play this game. I play it wrong in some regards. However, we filmed 2 videos. We filmed one with the Heavy Rain expansion, which we got some of the AI rules wrong. And then we played the first race in the Great Britain 1961 Championship, which is something we're going to bring to the channel. And yeah, we played it a little wrong to begin with, but by the end of it, by like the first couple of turns, we were playing it, as far as I'm aware, completely correct. So yeah, that's always nice when we get things right. Heat, however, is one of the best racing games that you can get on the market at the moment, in my honest opinion. I'm not a huge fan of racing games, but man, it is great fun. You basically have your car, you've got a deck of cards, and you've also got heat cards which are in your engine. You use these heat cards to basically kind of push your engine to get around corners, to speed up or slow down quickly. And the main kind of way to think about your car in this game is you just have to finish the game by getting across the finish line. You don't have to end with a pristine car. And as soon as you're thinking that way, now you're thinking about portals. You can basically just, absolutely wreck your car, but get across the finishing line. And yeah, great fun. So we were playing with the Heavy Rain expansion, and we were also doing something I've not played with Heat, the base game, which was using the garage modules. So the base game comes with loads of different options. It comes with AI drivers, it comes with a garage module where you can basically, you normally start the game with 3 different basic power-ups, a 0-speed card, a 5-speed card, and a heat card. But in the garage module, you basically draft a series of cards, and these are very, very different cards. So we played with that. We also played with the sponsorship cards, which are specific to the championship, really, where basically when you're going around certain corners, or you even start the game with some, they're one-time use cards, which can really help you out of a sticky situation. For instance, Will, I know, used two sponsorship cards in one go, which were basically like turbo cards, and it gave them like 12 spaces, which is ridiculous. Anyway, spoilers for when you do watch the 1961 championship there. So yeah, Heat, fantastic game. Heavy Rain expansion, you'll see a review for that coming up this week, probably this week, which was a really fun addition to the base game. So yeah, playing Heat. Next, we had a request on the channel for Dead by Daylight, some more Dead by Daylight gameplay. So guess what? We played some Dead by Daylight. And this time around, we used the Deathslinger, who's like a kind of undead cowboy. I got Will, who's never played the game before, and Christopher, who's played the game a few times, to pick some random characters. And something that's different is basically, rather than just using the skills that are printed on the dashboards, there is a mode in Dead by Daylight where you can basically just randomize perks, or you can choose perks. And we went for a kind of mix in between where we drew 5 cards. We basically could then choose the 3 on our dashboard, the 5 in a hand. We basically, like I said, basically a lot. We could replace the 3 on there with any of those 5, or leave all 3, or a combination. And the guys took forever to actually, between themselves come up with what they were going to use. And thanks to that, I think they did a great job. So when you do see that video, you'll see how well they got on using their unique perks. And who won? Was it me as the Deathslinger, or the 2 amigos trying to defeat me? You'll have to wait to find out. But I was hoping to bring that this month, but we had a bit of a delay at getting around to filming, so it'll definitely be out in March at some point. So next, I had a game night, which is always nice. A game night where I wasn't filming anything. I didn't have to teach a game. I just had to learn one. It was Suburbia with my good friends, Dave Beck and Jack. It was a really fun game. I played it before. We were using the Collector's Edition, which strangely had like a first player kind of looked like a 3D printed tower, which had lights you could put in, but the light didn't really do much. I don't know, that was weird. But it's a really interesting city building game. I had zero plan in those kind of games, and of course I came last. But it was a really enjoyable experience. Definitely recommend if you like Sim City or Skylines or any of that kind of city building stuff. Definitely check out Suburbia. It's a really fun, easy to pick up game, and some really interesting strategies and synergies you can do. Next, we're going to support Oathsworn. We're going to talk about Oathsworn. Oathsworn Into the Deep Woods. I filmed the first chapter. I've done the story mode and the encounter. The encounter I wasn't 100% happy with how that kind of got filmed, so I might redo that. But I'm hoping you'll see that in March at some point. Oathsworn is a really great game, and if I'm honest, for me, it beats Gloomhaven. It's a great fantasy setting with some really fun mechanics. The narrative is a lot more expansive than Gloomhaven, and it's less of a puzzle than Gloomhaven. So top marks. And the fact that you can get a really big box which doesn't have a million miniatures to paint, it's just got standees, beautiful. I love that. So Oathsworn, played that, great fun. Next, Cult Express. Played this with my good friends Louis and Chris at the Hideout in Birmingham, and that was I think I mentioned on a previous kind of waffle. And Cult Express is just classic. It's great. If you've never played before, I highly recommend playing it. It's a programming game. You have one phase where you're basically programming out what your cowboy bandit is going to do, and then the second phase where you're basically moving your guys around and screwing up everyone's game. It is great fun and really easy to teach, really easy to learn, and very cheap to pick up as well. So highly recommend if you've never played Cult Express. What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? If you see it in a board game cafe, definitely play it. It's great. And then finally, there's a game I don't know whether you've heard of before. I certainly never mentioned on the channel. A game called Shadows of Brimstone. So February, I played quite a bit of Shadows of Brimstone, Tredaran Strike Force specifically. The Viking stuff, I've been waiting for the guys to be all free at the same time, so we can carry on that, but we haven't, the moon hasn't aligned, so we haven't been able to actually do any more of the Viking stuff, so I've just been focusing on doing the Shadows. And it seems like you guys are really enjoying the Tredaran Strike team as much as I'm enjoying playing it. It's really interesting because when you play Shadows of Brimstone, it is not often a plan comes together or you have a very good team synergy. But I really find with the Tredaran Strike team, they're a great mix of characters. The Strike works really well, and I've said on the videos before, you're supposed to pick two worlds. You're supposed to pick a primary world and another world. And I think I'm supposed to pick a primary world as in the mines, as in the Forbidden Fortress and the Spanish Forts or the Norselands. So I think you're supposed to pick like a prime world like that, and then the other world should be somewhere like the Derelict Ship or Tredera. Me, however, I went for something different. I've been wanting to play with the Derelict Ship for absolutely ages, and Luke sent me a couple of artifacts as well, an artifact deck, so I had even more reason to try it out, and I just really like the idea of the Tredarans going to the Derelict Ship. I loved using the course-based terrain to make it look a little more interesting, using some of the Mantic Star Saga stuff as well, just to kind of like flesh it out a little bit more. And yeah, putting some music in there and doing some voices and stuff. I just think it's a really fun little videos to watch. I find them fun anyway, and I hope you guys are enjoying them. So yeah, Tredaran Strike Force, it's just been great fun playing a level where a void grenade went in and just took out a ton of enemies, or Grimlock, who's our specialist. I feel like he's really been having a grind, and he tends to miss shots a lot and open up holes in this outer side of the spaceship and stuff. So when he was actually able to, on the gas warfare, I think it was, mission, where he was able to just basically lay down a flamethrower template down a corridor. It was just great fun. It was great fun to play, and I hope it was fun to watch. But yeah, Shadows of Brimstone is another thing I've been playing. But out of all of these, which one is my game of the month? Well, which one will it be? My game of the month for February is going to be... Oh, it's really close. It's between two games. I'm afraid it's going to have to be Shadows of Brimstone, Tredaran Strike Team. Man alive, I had so much fun with that. It's not often that I can sit down and play a solo game and really get involved in it, really invested, really enjoy it. But I feel really invested in the characters in the Strike Team. I'm loving using the Derelict Ship stuff. I'm loving using all the course-based terrain. It's just been great fun, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to the table to now I can't really say where I am at the moment, but the point I am in the campaign now, I'll be using a lot more Tredaran miniatures, which I've never been to Tredera before. So I'm looking forward to exploring that more. I've got all these Shintaro core Tredera painted up, so I'm really looking forward to seeing if my guys can get taken out or if they can manage to survive. And also I'm trying to think a bit more about the narrative as well. At the moment we have the Shintaro Corps, who are basically, the other Tredaran factions have joined together to try to like fight them off. They've got this new stronghold in the Derelict Ship to try to help them gain the upper hand over the Shintaro Corps. But yeah, on the second kind of half of this, The Shintari Corps are now going to be the main adversaries. We're going to have a lot more kind of interactions with them. So I've got some ideas of plot-wise where I want to go with it. Because my idea here is we'll do the Shintari Corps stuff and then we'll finish the campaign, and then we got a couple of tank missions, but I've got a kind of idea of where to spin it off. So yeah, watch your space. But yes, Shadows of Brimstone, Tredaran Strike Team, that is my game of the month. So let's go on to the meat and potatoes of this, although we are like nearly half an hour way through this video. So yeah, let's talk about Shadows of Brimstone. So this particular section of the video is a kind of how to start guide with Shadows of Brimstone, because I've seen lots of videos out there where people are asking questions, and sorry, not videos, lots of comments out there, people asking questions, oh, where did you start with Shadows of Brimstone? There's so much content, you know, what's compatible with what, you know, what should I do, what should I buy, that kind of thing. Normally my answer is, for anyone who wants to get into Shadows of Brimstone, is unless you are willing to sink a lot of money, then avoid, because it is a very good system, but there is so much content for it. If you are somebody who is a collector, you are going to be sinking a lot of money into it. I recently was talking to a friend about if I reduced my collection down to one game, what one game that would be, and I think it would be Shadows of Brimstone, because the amount of content in there, you could just be playing that game forever. Even if you didn't buy any more expansions, just with the stuff you got, you could just keep using various elements of it, come up with your own adventures. Yeah, it's great. It's such a great storytelling kind of game. So, but where do you start? Where would one start with this? Now, you start with the core set. That's where you start. So I'm going to tell you what I think you should begin with if you're looking into this. So, let's talk about core sets. There are currently 5 different core sets, but 4 primary worlds that are out there. So you have got the City of Ancients and the Swamps of Dread. Swamps of Death? Swamps of Death. Essentially, you've got 2 cowboy starter packs, which are really big boxes, tons of content in there, loads of missions, loads of miniatures, 4 different heroes to play with, and it's just a really good thematic game. And you also get a CD in there with a soundtrack in there, which is always fun to listen to. If you're looking for a Western-themed dungeon crawler with cosmic dread in there, then Shadows of Brimstone is always, I'd always say, get a City of Ancients or Swamps of Death box set, because they are exactly what you're looking for. So yeah, so if you're looking for a Western, then that's a great place to start. The next one is Forbidden Fortress. So this is set in feudal Japan, like an alternate world where a comet came down, brought Darkstone with it, which is basically this corrupting kind of stone, which is very valuable, and you can use it to get lots of benefits, but you know, you could be growing tentacles if you have too much of it. So yeah, the Forbidden Fortress is set in kind of feudal Japan. The enemies in it are always really interesting as well, because they're using kind of like different kind of monsters from kind of Japanese mythology and stuff, which is really interesting. And I'll be honest, I've had Forbidden Fortress for a long time, and I wasn't really that interested in it. It never really interested me. I'm not really into kind of that kind of mythology. It's not really my bag. I like ninjas and samurais, I guess, but it's never really been my kind of thing. Whereas westerns, also not really my thing, but I don't know, I just related to it. I thought this pretty cool. However, I've got to say, one of the most fun games I've played is Forbidden Fortress with 3 other people, mainly because the characters in there had a fantastic synergy. In Shadows of Brimstone, the other core sets, the Western ones specifically, I don't really feel like there's too much synergy between characters. They're really fun archetypes, and you can get a good team, but most people will pick the ones they like the looks of. And if you've got 2 sets of Shadows of Brimstone, Western stuff, which you probably will do, then yeah, you can mix and match, and the characters might not be that compatible. They might be glass cannons, or just can't do enough damage, or they're too slow or something. So Forbidden Fortress, I feel like it's really balanced, and yeah, it's an interesting setting as well. The other two worlds are the Norse lands, which are in the Viking box, which is the Gates of Valhalla. And you also have the Spanish fort, which is in the insert title of that at the moment. Valley of the Serpent Kings. I couldn't remember for thinking. So the Viking one, you're basically Vikings returning to the Norse lands, which have been overtaken by evil. The Valley of Serpent Kings, I couldn't tell you. I own it. I've not played it because I've been focusing on painting up and playing the Viking stuff, even though the Spanish conquistadors, which you are playing as in this, as like explorers, they're the ones that interest me the most because I've not really seen any games with that kind of team of people. So yeah, I couldn't really tell you too much about it, other than both the Viking one and the Conquistador one. They're using the same otherworld from the Cowboy starters. Obviously, it's actually a different area within that kind of realm. So, for instance, the City of Ancient has a place called the Targo Plateau, which is like a frozen ancient city. And the Vikings, they also go to the Targo Plateau, but a different area called the Library, which learns information about them as they go through. So that's the core sets, and they're all very different in their own ways. The last two, the Viking and the Conquistador ones, are smaller boxes, and the adventures in it are more of a narrative campaign. So if you're looking for a narrative campaign, then I would highly recommend getting one of those two starter sets. But yeah, where should you start with this? In my opinion, you start with the one that has the theme that you're interested in. There is no issues with compatibility for any of this stuff. You can basically get yourself Forbidden Fortress box set, and then you could get an Otherworld, and then you could play. You play with all that stuff. The only thing that you might have issues with is the mines on the other side. But I'm fairly certain there is an Otherworld for the mines in every Otherworld box. But yeah, so I'd say pick whichever theme really talks to you. So if you're after cowboys, get one of those two core sets. If you're after Vikings or conquistadors or feudal Japanese kind of heroes, then there's a different core set for you. And if you're after kind of like Indiana Jones stuff, then wait until the new big core set, which will be coming out 2025, I think, which is more about Egyptian mythology and going around Cairo. It looks amazing. So yeah. So other ones are at the moment, I would recommend that you start with the one that most speaks to you. If you're looking for more of an answer on that, I would probably go for one of the cowboy ones, because there's just so much content in that will last you a while. The adventure ones are a very close second, because the adventure ones are great because the narrative campaign is really interesting, and they will be compatible with quite a lot of the stuff that's already out there. The Forbidden Fortress, like I say, if that theme speaks to you, there is so much content just for that, so it's well worth picking up. But yeah, I'd recommend starting with one of the cowboy ones, and mainly because there is so much content for just the cowboy settings that you will be going for a long time just picking all that stuff up. And all the other worlds that you can buy, the other side of it, apart from the Forest of Dread, the other side of them all have the mines, so you'll have so much mine content. So I would say go for one of the ancients or swamps and just decide which one speaks to you more. Either the kind of Jargano swamps, where you've got like really interesting kind of ambush mechanics, or the frozen dread of an ancient city, and also which kind of like characters out of those kind of packs you like. Because that will also be a big driving force about what you want. Cities of Ancients, for instance, has the Gunslinger, which has a really cool kind of little kind of cardboard token for all of his deadshot bullets. And then the Swamps has the Preacher, who has sermons, so he can basically use spells. And I know personally, I started with the Swamps because I like the idea of a Preacher going around. It was a good fun game. So let's talk about map sets. So at the moment there are 2 map sets available. One which has the Spanish fort on one side and the swamps of Jargino on the other, and another one which has the Norselands on one side and the Targa Plateau on the other side. Now, I would say if you do pick up one of those adventures box sets, get one of these map tile sets as soon as you can, because the only issue I've found playing the adventures, just the core set, is there's a lot of tile repetition, because the adventure games are set to be a bit more succinct. Your adventure shouldn't take you too long. You'll only have a couple of fights. You're talking about an hour and a half, maybe more, depending on how many people are playing it every time you play that game. But the map tiles really add a lot to it. They've got a couple of interesting missions in there, both of which you can see on the channel. I did a solo for the Viking one. And yeah, the map sets really add a lot to it, and I really hope, and if you see me on any of the Shadows of Brimstone Facebook forums, you'll see me always mentioning it, I really hope that the Flying Frogs make more map tile decks just for other worlds. Like, I'd love to see a bunch of derelict ship stuff. I'd love to see some more Tredaran kind of, although I have a ton of Tredara kind of things, but you get the point. It'd be lovely to see more map packs just for expanding stuff out. So map sets, only pick those up if you have one of the adventurous sets, I'd say. There's no real point picking them up unless you have one of those. But if you did go for one of the core boxes, so if you went for cities or you went for swamps, the next thing you should pick up is Frontier Towns. Frontier Towns basically adds a whole new element to it. During Shadows of Brimstone, you'll do an adventure, and then you do a quick town phase, and then you go back to an adventure, and so forth and so forth. This actually fleshes out that kind of town phase immensely. You have a lot more going on there, a lot more daily events happening, a lot more different locations you can visit, and just a lot more options. So if you're wanting to, really kind of add a lot of flavour to it, add a lot of kind of depth to the game, then that Frontier Towns expansion is worth it. And there is a feudal village for the Forbidden Fortress that you can pick up if the Forbidden Fortress is the kind of route you're going down. So either so the second thing you should get, really, if you got one of the Cowboy core sets, is get yourself that Frontier Town. If you get the Forbidden Fortress, get yourself the feudal village, and if you've got yourself one of the adventurer sets, the Viking or Conquistador, the next thing you should pick up is the map tile set. So with that in mind, we're now going to talk about Otherworld. So once you've done your adventures in that base game, you're going to want to have some more adventures. The next thing I pick up after you've got yourself the expansions I mentioned is an Otherworld. Find an Otherworld that really speaks to you, that you really love the theme. For me, the first one I picked up was the derelict ship, because it was like, oh my god, this looks cool. There's a picture of like undead kind of astronauts on the front. I was like, man, this looks great. Picked it up, painted some, didn't play it. I played it a little bit, but didn't play it really for a long time until it was on the channel, really. But yeah, loads of them out there, loads of really interesting kind of mechanics, different kind of worlds and stuff. And yeah, they can be hard to track down now. So if you do see some, pick them up as soon as you can, really. But yeah, I'd go for another world after that. So that gives you a bunch more adventures that you can play with. Adds a ton more content to the base game, and lots more options for when you're going to other worlds. So next we're going to talk about mission packs. So for me, I'm more about gameplay, and the next thing I would pick up after you've got yourself another world is a mission pack. Mission pack is a series of, I think, 4 adventures which have a theme over them. They could be the feral vampires, they could be werewolves, they can be hellfire succubi, whatever they are, and they can be the Crimson Hand or the Lost Army, but the Crimson Hand being a really interesting kind of cult that are over a couple of the Flying Frogs games. But yeah, the Vampire Mission Pack, for instance, we played that on the channel, and what was cool about that, it introduces new rules for vampire heroes. So you can actually start turning the vampires in the game. Same with the werewolf one. What they don't tell you when you pick up one of those packs, though, is that there is normally a kind of like, they'll have a card in there for like a special boss, but they don't give you the miniature for it. The miniature you have to buy from the Flying Frogs themselves, or you can get it from Gamers HQ if you're in like Europe. And yeah, you have to get a separate miniature for that, which they don't tell you about when you pick it up, which is a shame. And if you are a completionist, you will definitely be spending money to pick up those additional characters, or you can kind of sub them out with something else. So mission pack wise, I have the Call of the Crimson Hand, Rise of the Crimson Hand, maybe it's called. The Vampire Mission Pack is the only one I've actually played, and I really enjoyed that. I thought it was very thematic, really fun. And yeah, just vampires making themselves a nuisance. It was great fun, especially in a Western setting, having, cowboys versus vampires. It's fantastic. So these mission packs are all themed, and really, really interesting kind of themes on them, really interesting kind of new rules they bring into it. So yeah, after you've got yourself another world, go for a mission pack. Brings a lot more kind of missions in there, and also themes, and your characters can come across some really cool options. After that, we're going to talk about the last two things I'm really going to recommend, and there are monster packs, and there's two types. There is a kind of just a basic monster pack, and there is also a deluxe enemy pack. You can also get swarm packs, but I don't really know anything about them, so couldn't recommend them because I've not played them myself. You can also get challenge packs. Have one. Not sure I'd recommend it until I played it. But yes, the enemy packs come in two flavors. You've got a general enemy pack, which basically brings you a bunch of enemies, the cards and rules for them, and maybe some tokens, and that's it. The other one you can get is a deluxe enemies. Now, deluxe enemies come with a couple of missions. So for me, they're always a little more more advantageous to pick one of those up because they just introduce the monsters a bit better rather than them just turning up. So the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. So there is one where you've got undead gunslingers, and they're basically coming to track you down. And there's a couple of missions where you can, you've basically got this kind of undead gunslinger stalking you through levels and stuff, which if you play this game enough that you've had characters like Gunslinger and maybe they died in the internal narrative of the world, you could be like, oh, the undead gunslinger, that's that guy who we left to die and he's come back to get us. So I really enjoy that kind of element of that kind of story element to it. There's Masters of the Void as well, where you have these kind of like kind of tentacled kind of Cthulhu worshipping guys who summon monsters and stuff, and they come with void hounds. They just look fantastic, and they're great fun to play with. So the deluxe ones are good because you get some more missions out of it, and for me that's always worth more than just a new enemy set that you may or may not use. So that's about it in that regard. Some of the monsters you can get are XL as well, or XXL, and they're basically huge bosses which come with a ton of kind of cards and new rules and stuff like that, and they look really impressive on the kind of table. So they're pretty fun as well. And I'd say that when you've got to a point in Shadows of Brimstone, you're probably going to want to have some big boss to round off your campaign. If you get one of those 3 original core sets, the cowboy ones or the feudal one, you don't really have a big boss in it. They mention certain bosses which you can then go and pick up. But I would say if I was running a game of it, I'd probably pick up a big boss to end off a season of it or something. So I guess that's my waffle really for today. In summary, so you can fast forward to this part if you're looking for a guide for Shadows of Brimstone. Get a core set. I'd recommend getting one of the cowboys just because there's a lot more compatibility with the other worlds. Get yourself the Frontier Town next, which adds a lot more to the town phase. Then get yourself an Otherworld of some kind. Derelict Ship was fantastic and it's great fun to play online on the channel for you guys. Then a mission pack of some kind to bring in a new enemy type, new kind of like rules. Maybe your cowboys turn into vampires or werewolves or whatever. And then finally, get yourself a boss pack or some deluxe enemies to flesh out, add a bit more variety into what you're going to be experiencing in your games of Shadows of Brimstone. Well, I think my voice is nearly gone at this point, very dry at the moment. But yeah, thanks so much for listening to me waffle about Shadows of Brimstone, which is the game of the month this month. And yeah, March is going to be fantastic. I'm really excited about it. A couple of really cool things happening in March. We have Aircon, which I cannot wait. I will be posting up some more details about our adventures at Aircon before we actually go. So if you guys are at Aircon, please let me know, because if you want some Shadows promo cards, I'm going to have some to give out there. We've got an adventure we're going to be running there on the Sunday at the moment, but we're going to be there for the whole duration. Myself, Christopher and Alex will be there with various games. You can just come and sit down, join in with the fun, and yeah, it'd be lovely to meet some of you guys. So let me know in the comments below if you want to come, but we will be doing a full video just for our prep for Aircon. And during that weekend, which is the kind of the 14th of March, I think, that kind of weekend, we'll be doing lots of kind of live videos and yeah, just some fun videos. So keep an eye out for the channel for that. But yeah, that's it really, guys. March is going to have some Dead by Daylight content. Hopefully some more Shadows of Brimstone if I manage to churn some more out for you guys. Dungeon Saga Origins, I might just keep cracking on through those for you. And yeah, there's quite a few reviews coming as well. We've done lots of gameplay videos, but not many review videos, so expect to see a lot more review videos in the not too distant future. But that's about it from me. If there's any games you'd love to see us do on the channel, or we've started and we haven't carried them on, or you've seen unboxing videos but you've not seen anything else, let us know in the comments below, and we will endeavour to get them to the table to show you guys. Pericle should be very soon. We've filmed it, it's with Will, so we should have it at some point very soon. It might even drop this week, could be next week, could be some point in March, but yeah, keep tuned for that, because it was great fun to play. So hopefully the video comes out really well and you guys enjoy it enough for us to play some more for you. Anyway, I think that's about it. I've been the ever excitable Adam. Until next time, guys, stay safe or die rolling.